Kaugnay sa nangyaring power outage sa Panay Island, makakausap natin ang tagapagsalita ng National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, Cynthia Alabanza. Magandang gabi sa iyo, Cynthia.
Yes, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat.
Cynthia, so tell us, ano nangyari? What happened yesterday?
Well, right now, we can only talk about what NGCP is from its system. And shortly before noon yesterday, the system was in normal condition. That means the voltage was okay, frequency was okay. Shortly after noon yesterday, we monitored the tripping of a large power plant, PEDC Unit 1 at 83 megawatts. But the system recovered after that, so voltage and frequency normalized. At around 2:19 p.m., we also monitored the almost simultaneous tripping of 6 additional plants. At this point, more than 70% of the generation capacity within Panay Island was already gone from the grid. And when the 2:19 incident happened, the voltage situation could not be recovered because the power loss from these generators was already too big. So that led to the sequence of events that led to the total power generation failure within Panay Island.
Are we saying, Cynthia, na kasalanan ng mga power plant ito dahil nag-trip sila? Hindi ba merong tinatawag na maintenance, so we should not be expecting them to encounter these, to go through these incidents?
That's absolutely correct. Meron tayong tinatawag na grid operating and maintenance plan. That is something that NGCP coordinates with the power players and is submitted to the DOE. Unfortunately, of the 4 large power plants that were unavailable yesterday, 3 was unscheduled, meaning not part of the plan, and only 1 was really a scheduled maintenance shutdown. And these 4 large plants, all of which were unavailable yesterday, make up almost 70% of the generation within Panay Island. Right now, NGCP can only see the details that it can pull from its own system, and we are still waiting for the reports coming from the power plants so that we can reconcile their data with ours to give a full picture of what really transpired and what led to the almost simultaneous tripping of the 6 plants at 2:19 p.m.
So while we're waiting for the official explanation nitong 4 na planta, what usually causes a tripping, an unscheduled incident like this?
Well, NGCP does not control the power plants, no. We are actually strictly prohibited by law from having any interest in the power plants. But we do get their reports, and usually there are a lot of internal issues. I think the last one I saw for the 12 noon tripping was a boiler tube leak, which is a pretty common reason for tripping of power plants. But it could be anything, and I think I don't want to hazard a guess as to what happened to the plants yesterday, but right now we are still waiting for their report.
Okay. Can you tell us yung percentage ng areas ng Western Visayas? So we're talking about Panay Island, first Panay Island, also Aklan, Antique, Capiz, Iloilo. What percentage of the areas ang may kuryente na as of 6:30 tonight?
As the last update I have is 6 p.m. And out of the usual 400 or so available, the usual 400 load, around less than, around half of that is being served. So we are still waiting for the largest remaining plant on unscheduled maintenance shutdown, the PCPC plant at 135 megawatts. To indicate to us when they're coming back. We're hoping that they can come back tomorrow, and when they do, we are hoping that this is a stable reconnection to the grid. So we will be watching that very closely.
Can you specify which areas, which towns, which cities, for example, in those 4 provinces I mentioned, already have electricity?
We supply only to the distribution utilities. So within the franchise areas, which covers the specific towns, that's really up to the distribution utility to manage their allocation. So all of the distribution utilities in Panay Island are affected, and they are given a pro rata allocation of what power is available for Panay. And within each franchise area, the distribution utilities have the discretion to distribute that within their area.
What does NGCP think of yung statement nga ng Mayor ng Iloilo City, si Jerry Treñas, no, na to make NGCP accountable for this power outage?
Well, we really understand where si Mayor Treñas is coming from, because after all, he is the one who has to face his constituents and explain why this is happening. So, when we first got wind of what happened, I personally texted him, and I know our President and CEO, Mr. Anthony Almeida, also texted him. And on the ground, we sent out advisories to both the LGUs and our customers to keep them informed. Unfortunately, electricity is really such a complicated and technical industry, and it's not very easy to explain, especially when you're talking about milliseconds, not seconds, in terms of response times. A millisecond is 1/1000th of a second. So, it's very difficult to give a quick answer and a definitive answer, because NGCP, we make announcements, but at the end of the day, we don't control the distribution utilities or the generators. So we really rely on the data that they provide us.
Complicated is an understatement, no, Cynthia?
Yes.
Itong power interruption, no, hitting an entire island with hundreds of thousands of people. This is, of course, a very big incident that cannot go unnoticed, no. So, but it also brings into focus itong issues of renewable energy, no, and this is something I think that the NGCP is interested in also, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because one of the difficulties that we saw, especially with regard to Panay Island, is the presence of a lot of variable renewable energy in Negros. Panay is connected to Negros, and when something happens within Panay, we need to draw power from sources within Negros and the rest of the Visayas grid through the connection to Negros. So pag unstable yung sources from Negros, and solar is a little bit variable, meaning when you have cloud cover, then automatically mawawala na yung generation niya. So it's called variable. So it's not very good really to rely on solar because of its intermittence when you are on a recovery mode, especially sa Panay Island. So, one of the recommendations we have always been advocating is better resource analysis and planning. And part of the resources would be generation and transmission. There are many ways to skin a cat. There are solutions that can be implemented from the transmission side. But if you really want a full solution to this, all areas must be all sectors of the energy industry must be focused on. So a good generation mix comprising of both variable and non-variable sources must also be considered, including the geographic location, and of course, transmission upgrades to widen the highways and electrically shorten distances. That will definitely help. But there is no one fits all solution. It can't be all transmission. Kung kailangan nating patibayin yung sistema, yung tatlong sektor ng industriya, kailangan natin tingnan at planuhin ng maayos.
Like you said, no, it's complicated in so many words. And my last question, no,
Yes.
if like you say, solar power, solar energy, not very reliable, you have cloud cover and that's it. What other energy sources are we talking about? Renewable energy. What should we be exploring?
Well, there are a lot of new technologies like batteries, but they're fairly new. There are also a lot of green energy sources that are not intermittent. So those have to be explored. And of course, the traditional sources, coal and oil. But as far as NGCP is concerned, we're technology neutral. Basta dumating yung kuryente, papadaluyin natin yan. Pero from a system operation point of view, meron talagang mas madaling i-manage. Basta may fuel, tatakbo, kesa dun sa mga medyo nag-rely on uncertainties like wind and solar. Kapag tumigil ang wind o nagkaroon ng cloud cover, mawawala. But of course, it's our obligation to accommodate this and manage the intermittencies. But unfortunately, the management tools that we need for intermittence also comes from the generators. We need power to manage power. And NGCP cannot build their own plants, so we also rely on the same plants that exist for load or for consumption.
Cynthia Alabanza, tagapagsalita ng NGCP, maraming salamat sa iyo. Thank you for joining us.